Hey guys, tonight we're heading north. Far north. So far north that the trees have given up, the sun forgets to show up for months at a time, and the very air you breathe can freeze in your lungs. Imagine you're standing at the edge of the world, and the world is a vast, unbroken sheet of white. The snow isn't just a blanket here, it's the whole bed, the room, the house, and the entire neighborhood. It stretches in every direction until it simply merges with a low gray sky, and you can no longer tell where the earth ends and the heavens begin. Let's be honest, if you were dropped here in your pajamas, you probably wouldn't survive the first 15 minutes. The cold here doesn't just make you shiver, it's an active predator, seeking out any sliver of exposed skin. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always nice to know you're out there. In fact, drop your location and local time in the comments below. It's fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing on that frozen edge, the wind a constant, patient sculptor of snow and ice. It whispers secrets in a language older than words, a sibilant rush that's the only sound for miles, save for the frantic, muffled beat of your own heart. You pull the fur-lined hood of your parka tighter around your face, the coarse hairs of caribou tickling your nose. Every breath you take is a deliberate act, a conscious choice to draw the knife-sharp air into your body. The exhale is a plume of white vapor, a temporary ghost of your own life immediately snatched away by the wind. This isn't just a landscape, it's a presence. It's alive, but not in a way that feels welcoming. It's the kind of aliveness that is supremely indifferent to whether you live or die. It's the ultimate minimalist aesthetic if you think about it. A decorating scheme of white, gray, and the occasional shocking blue of ancient ice. Forget your scenic Sunday walks. A stroll out here is a calculated risk against an opponent that never gets tired. This is the world of the Inuit, a realm of ice and snow, of sea and sky. For thousands of years, people have not just survived but thrived here, their culture as elegantly and precisely shaped by the environment as a snowdrift is by the wind. Their ancestors, the people known today as the Thule, completed a truly staggering migration across the North American Arctic around the year 1000 AD, spreading from Alaska to Greenland. They didn't do it with fancy gear or GPS. They did it with an understanding of this place so profound it's almost genetic. They knew how to read the ice, how to follow the animals, how to build warmth from snow, and how to see the subtle shifts in the endless white that signaled a change in the weather, the presence of a seal's breathing hole, or the danger of a hidden crevasse. You turn from the vast emptiness and trudge toward the faint promise of smoke. The crunch of your sealskin boots on the hard-packed snow is a satisfying, rhythmic sound. You're heading toward a cluster of low, dome-shaped structures, half buried in the snow for insulation. These are the winter homes, the sod houses or karmaks. From a distance, they look like natural parts of the landscape, sleeping white hills under the leaden sky. But as you get closer, you see the details. A frame of whalebone ribs juts from a snowdrift. A kayak, sleek and skeletal, lies overturned, waiting for the brief, frantic summer. The air grows heavier with the scent of burning seal oil, a rich, fatty smell that promises warmth and light and a full belly. You duck low to enter one of the homes through a short, sunken tunnel designed to trap the cold air. Inside, the world transforms. The howling wind is silenced, replaced by the gentle hiss and pop of a soapstone lamp, the quallic. Its soft, flickering flame is the only light, casting long, dancing shadows across the interior. The space is small, intimate, lined with furs and animal hides. It's surprisingly warm, a haven of life carved from the surrounding desolation. In the center of this warmth, a family exists. Their lives are woven into the seasons, into the movement of the caribou and the habits of the walrus. Their stories are not written in books but are carried in the songs of the elders and the nimble fingers of the women as they sew waterproof seams with sinew thread. Anthropologists still debate the exact origins of these deeply woven beliefs, but it's clear they are born from this intimate and often dangerous relationship with the natural world. And within this family, within this bubble of warmth, there is a girl. She is young, beautiful by any standard, with hair as black and glossy as a raven's wing against the pale furs she rests on. Her eyes hold a depth that seems to mirror the dark, unseen waters that churn beneath the sea ice. She is quiet, her hands busy with some small task, but her mind seems far away. She is at that difficult age where the expectations of her family and her village are beginning to press in on her. She is a creature of this place, born of the ice and the long, dark nights. Yet there is a restlessness in her, a quiet refusal that simmers just beneath the surface. For a people whose survival depends on cooperation and fulfilling one's role, this quiet non-compliance is a dissonance, a note played slightly out of key. It's a subtle tension you can feel in the warm, lamplit air. This is her story, a story that will eventually break the surface of the ice and plunge into the terrifying, life-giving depths below. It is a story about a choice that wasn't a choice, and a betrayal so deep it would create a new world. New. Your gaze shifts from the girl to the man sitting across the small, warm space. He is her father, Anguta. He is not a king or a great chieftain in the way other mythologies might frame him, but a hunter, a provider, a man whose authority is earned daily through his skill and wisdom. His face is a roadmap of his life carved by the wind and the relentless glare of the sun on snow. The skin around his eyes is creased into a permanent squint, a testament to countless hours spent scanning the blinding white horizon for the dark shape of a seal or the lumbering form of a polar bear. His hands, resting on his knee, are broad and calloused, but they move with a surprising dexterity, able to carve a toggle from walrus ivory or expertly flens a seal in the freezing cold. Right now, those hands are still and his eyes are fixed on his daughter. He isn't looking at her with simple paternal affection. There's a knot of worry tightening in his gut, a familiar and growing frustration. He sees her beauty, of course. It is undeniable. In a world where life is often brutal and short, her perfection seems like a gift from the spirits, but it has become a troublesome one. It has made her proud. It has made her selective. It has, he fears, made her foolish. She has come of age, and in their world, this means only one thing. It is time for her to be a wife. This isn't a suggestion. It's a fundamental law of survival. It seems the pressure to settle down is a truly timeless parental headache, transcending all cultures and millennia. In this society, a marriage is not a private affair of the heart. It's the very bedrock of their existence. Historians still argue whether the primary driver for these arrangements was purely economic, or if it held a deeper, more spiritual significance, but on a practical level, it was everything. A marriage was an alliance. It bound two families together, creating a larger network for sharing food, raising children, and providing support. If your hunt failed, your son-in-law's success might be what kept your family from starving. If you grew old or were injured, your daughter's new family became your safety net. An unmarried daughter of a certain age was not just an anomaly, she was a vulnerability. She was a mouth to feed without contributing to the creation of a new, productive family unit. Anguta's worry isn't about her happiness in some abstract modern sense. It's about her survival. It's about his survival. It's about the continuity of their people. There was no Tinder for the Thule, no swiping right on a promising walrus hunter. Matchmaking was a direct, serious business with consequences for the entire community. He watches her as she idly smooths a piece of caribou hide, her expression distant, almost disdainful. She's aware of his gaze, you can tell. She is aware of the unspoken expectation that hangs in the warm, oily air between them, but she holds herself apart from it. It's a classic case of stubborn teenager syndrome, a phenomenon that apparently requires no electricity or internet access to flourish. To Anguta, her refusal to choose a husband is a profound failure of duty. It's a rejection of the natural order that keeps them all alive. He has provided for her, kept her warm and fed, taught her the skills a woman needs. Now, it is her turn to fulfill her role, to become a wife and a mother, to weave her life into the fabric of the community, and she simply won't. This defiance baffled him. Partnership was so integral to their way of life that many Inuit groups practiced what ethnographers later called co-marriage, or spouse exchange. It was a complex system of creating alliances where two men would establish a bond that allowed them to share resources, hunting grounds, and yes, sometimes wives. It was a way of forging kinship so powerful, it was like creating a new type of family, a practical solution to the immense challenges of Arctic life. In a world that demanded such deep, interwoven partnerships for survival, how could his own daughter refuse to even begin the process, to reject the very foundation of their society? He clears his throat, the sound small but sharp in the enclosed space. The girl, Sedna, doesn't look up. Her focus remains on the piece of hide in her hands. He sees it for what it is, a deliberate act of ignoring him, a silent rebellion. A fresh wave of anger, cold and sharp as the wind outside, cuts through his worry. Who did she think she was? Did she believe her beauty made her exempt from the rules that governed everyone else? Did she think she could live forever in his home, a perpetual child, while other young men, good hunters and providers, were presenting themselves, only to be turned away with a quiet shake of her head? His patience, a quality he had in abundance when tracking a wounded caribou for days across the tundra, was wearing dangerously thin when it came to his own daughter. The problem of Sedna was becoming a stone in his boot, a constant irritating presence that he knew he would have to deal with, and soon. The long, dark winter was coming, a time of close quarters and strained resources. It was not a time for a household to be out of balance. The tension in the small, warm hut doesn't break. It just thickens like the sea ice in the dead of winter. Anguta's frustration hardens into a decision. If his daughter will not choose, then a choice will be brought to her, again and again, until she understands the foolishness of her position. And so, the parade begins. You watch as word goes out, carried from one winter settlement to another by a visiting hunter or a wandering family. Anguta's beautiful daughter is available, and he is anxious to see her matched. It's the talk of the region, the subject of gossip whispered over the flickering flames of the Quolak lamps. The first to arrive is a young hunter from a camp just down the coast. He is everything a young woman is supposed to desire. He is strong, with broad shoulders built from years of paddling a kayak through choppy seas and hauling heavy seals across the ice. He doesn't just walk. He moves with a quiet, predatory confidence. His parka is well made, the fur of the wolf trimming his hood thick and pale. He brings gifts, as is the custom. A fine, sharp harpoon head carved from a walrus tusk, and the pelt of a freshly killed Arctic fox, its whiteness so pure it seems to hold the light. He speaks respectfully to Anguta, outlining the size of his family, the number of successful hunts he led this past season, the quality of his dog sled team. He is, by all accounts, a fantastic catch, the ultimate eligible bachelor of the Arctic Circle. He would provide well for her, protect her, and give her strong sons. He turns his attention to Sedna. His gaze is direct, appreciative. He doesn't smile, but his eyes are clear and confident. And you watch Sedna as she finally looks up from her work. She assesses him, her dark eyes sweeping over him from the tip of his sealskin boots to the top of his head. Her face remains a mask of calm neutrality. The silence stretches. The young hunter waits. Anguta waits, his jaw so tight you think it might crack. Finally, Sedna gives a slight, almost imperceptible shake of her head and lowers her gaze back to the piece of hide in her lap. The dismissal is so complete, so utterly final, that the air goes out of the room. The hunter, to his credit, just gives a curt nod, his pride wounded, but his dignity intact. He gathers his things and leaves without another word. When he is gone, Anguta turns on his daughter, his voice a low hiss. His teeth were crooked, she says, without looking up, as if that explained everything. A few weeks later, another suitor arrives. This one is different. He is not a local. He comes from an inland group, the people of the deer. He is leaner than the seal hunter, wiry and tough, his face darker from a summer spent in the wind without the glare of the sea ice. His wealth is not in ivory and blubber, but in caribou. He promises Sedna a life of following the great herds, a tent made from 100 stitched hides, and more caribou tongues, a great delicacy, than she could ever eat. He brings with him a gift that causes a stir, a piece of driftwood, long and smooth. In this treeless land, wood that drifted across the ocean from some unknown distant forest was an incredibly valuable resource, used for tent poles, tool handles, and the frames of kayaks. It was a sign of great status and wealth. He's the guy who shows up in a fancy imported car, essentially. He is a good man, a great provider from a respected family. But again, Sedna considers him for a long, silent moment. She watches the way he moves, listens to the rhythm of his speech, which has a slightly different accent than her own. And again, she declines. A quiet, final no. This time her excuse to her furious father is that the man smells of the land. She, a woman of the sea, could not live with a man who carried the scent of moss and tundra instead of the sharp, clean smell of salt and ice. The excuse is so flimsy, so patently ridiculous, that her father can only stare at her in disbelief. The social dynamics of these rejections are complex. Historians still argue whether a woman's consent was a critical component of a marriage pact, or if a father could, in the end, simply force the union. Sedna, for her part, seems to be testing the limits of that very question. The last to try is an older man, a widower. He is an angakuk, a shaman, a man of great power and respect. He has seen many winters, and his knowledge is vast. He can no longer hunt with the vigor of the younger men, but his sons are mighty hunters, and his household wants for nothing. He offers Sedna not passion or adventure, but security, wisdom, and a place of honor as the senior wife in a large and prosperous home. He would be kind to her. He would be patient. He would teach her the old songs and stories. It is a more than honorable offer, and yet, it is not enough. She rejects him with the same quiet finality. There is no reason given this time. There doesn't need to be. The pattern is set. Her refusals are becoming an embarrassment, a source of dangerous instability. Anguta is beside himself, caught between his paternal duty to provide for his daughter and his fury at her inexplicable stubbornness. He can't understand what she is waiting for. What impossible standard is she holding these men to? Does she even know what she wants? You look at her, sitting there so calmly amidst the storm of her father's anger, and you sense it's not about crooked teeth or the smell of moss, it's something deeper. She isn't just refusing these men, she is refusing the life they represent. A predictable cycle of seasons, of children, of sewing skins and tending the lamp. She is waiting for something else, something more, something she can't name, but that she feels as a hollow ache in her bones, a longing for a fate that is entirely, uniquely her own. It's a dangerous wish in a world built on conformity and tradition. The days grow shorter, the sun a brief pale smear on the southern horizon. Anguta's rage has cooled into a sullen, bitter silence. The rejections have ceased because the suitors have stopped coming. News of his daughter's prideful heart has spread, and no man wishes to make the long journey only to be met with silent contempt. The small Carmack is thick with unspoken resentment. Sedna continues her daily tasks, her beauty a strange, cold light in the gloom. But you can feel the isolation that is now wrapped around her like a shroud. She has gotten what she wanted, to be left alone. But the victory feels hollow, the silence of the hut more oppressive than her father's anger. It is in this quiet, stagnant moment that a change finally comes. It starts as a dark speck on the water, a flicker of movement against the gray, churning sea. You see him first, a lone figure in a kayak, paddling toward your settlement. This is unusual. The weather is turning, and sane hunters stay close to shore. But this kayaker moves with an impossible grace and speed, his double-bladed paddle dipping into the water with a rhythm that is more like a dance than a struggle. His vessel isn't the familiar patched sealskin of the local hunters. It is long, sleek, and black as a starless night, cutting through the waves as if the sea itself were parting for him. His arrival is less like a hunter returning and more like a high-end sports car pulling up to a remote farmhouse. It's an event, and everyone stops to watch. He brings his kayak ashore with a final elegant flick of the paddle, beaching it silently on the stony shore. As he stands, you see he is tall, his form hidden within a magnificent parka. But it's not made of caribou or bear fur. It seems to be fashioned from the feathers of 1,000 seabirds, dark and iridescent, shimmering with oily greens and purples, even in the flat gray light. His hood is pulled low, and his face is further obscured by a pair of snow goggles. Not the simple wooden ones you're used to, but a pair intricately carved from walrus ivory, the slits for vision so narrow they betray nothing of the eyes within. This ancient piece of technology, the ilgak, was a brilliant invention to prevent the searing pain of snowblindness. But here, it serves another purpose. It makes him a complete and utter mystery. He doesn't approach Anguta's dwelling with the hesitant deference of the other suitors. He walks with a purpose, his stride long and confident, and stops directly before Sedna, who has emerged from the hut to see the source of the commotion. The other villagers keep their distance, sensing that this is a moment outside the bounds of their normal customs. Folklorists often debate whether these stranger figures in myths represent a fear of outsiders, a commentary on social deception, or something more supernatural. And looking at this man, you feel all three possibilities are in play. When he speaks, his voice is not the gruff, practical tone of a hunter. It is a low, melodious sound, a voice that seems to have the rhythm of the rising and falling tide within it. And he does not speak to her father. He speaks directly to her. "I have come for you," he says, the words cutting through the cold air. "I have heard of a flower that blooms in the snow, and I have crossed the great water to find it." It is the kind of smooth talk you'd expect from a suspiciously perfect online dating profile, and honestly, the red flags are practically waving in the wind. But Sedna is mesmerized. He doesn't offer her a life of security. He doesn't speak of his hunting prowess or his family connections. He speaks of a place beyond the horizon. "Where I live," he says, his voice a captivating murmur. "There is no wind. My home is a great tent made of the softest skins imaginable, where you will never feel the cold. The lamps are always full, and they burn with a light that never flickers. You will eat the most tender fish, and you will never have to scrape a hide or chew a boot sole to soften it. You will rest on furs softer than the breast of an eider duck, and I will bring you all you desire." It is a fantasy, a beautiful, impossible lie. Every word he says goes against the fundamental laws of the world she knows. A place with no wind? A life with no work? It shouldn't be believable. Anguta, standing in the doorway of his home, is deeply suspicious. This stranger is too slick, his promises too grand. Yet, he sees the look on his daughter's face. For the first time, her mask of bored indifference is gone. Her eyes, fixed on the stranger, are wide with a dawning fascination. She is not just listening to his words, she is drinking them in. This is what she was waiting for. Not a better hunter or a richer man, but a different reality altogether. The stranger has bypassed all the practical considerations of marriage and aimed his words directly at the hollow space in her heart, at her secret, unnamed longing for more. And in that moment you see that his aim is lethally precise. You stand there on the frozen shore, a silent witness to this strange and pivotal negotiation. The stranger's words hang in the air, shimmering with an unnatural warmth. They are promises of a life that is not just better, but fundamentally different from the one Sedna knows. You can almost see her mind working, constructing a vivid picture from his alluring descriptions. She thinks of the endless, back-breaking tasks that define a woman's life here. She thinks of chewing the tough, frozen edges of sealskin boots, the kamiks, for hours to make them pliable, her jaw aching, the taste of salt and hide a constant in her mouth. She thinks of scraping the fat from a freshly killed seal with her ulu, her hands numb with cold and slick with blood. She thinks of the gnawing anxiety and the lean times, when the hunters return with nothing and the community pulls its belt a little tighter, the laughter fading from the firelight. Archaeologists and anthropologists continue to debate the level of material comfort that was realistically achievable in these pre-contact societies, But one thing is certain. Life was hard. It was a constant grinding battle against a world that could kill you with cold, with starvation, or with a simple misstep on the ice. The psychological toll could be immense. There are historical accounts of a condition called piblokto, or Arctic hysteria, a sudden dissociative fit of screaming and wild behavior, a stark indicator of the incredible stress people lived under. And this stranger, with his melodious voice and hidden eyes, is offering her a complete and total release from that stress. He's selling an escape hatch from reality. It is the ancient equivalent of one of those scam emails promising you a forgotten inheritance from a foreign prince. The sensible part of your brain knows it's a lie, but a small, desperate part wants so badly for it to be true. This is the part of the story where you want to shout a warning. You want to point out the obvious red flags, the weird feather parka, the fact he won't show his face, the promises that are so clearly impossible. It is like watching the start of a horror movie where the main character eagerly decides to explore the creepy, abandoned asylum, but you can't say a word. And even if you could, Sedna wouldn't listen. She isn't weighing his words against logic. She is weighing them against the sheer, exhausting weight of her own existence. The promise of soft furs is not about luxury. It's about a world without the bone-deep, relentless cold. The promise of endless food is not about gluttony. It's about a life free from the ever-present fear of starvation. The promise of a life of ease is a promise of a life without the mind-numbing, repetitive labor that she knows is her only other option. It is not love that sways her. It's not even attraction to the mysterious figure before her. It is a calculated decision, made by a part of her that is simply tired of fighting. She is trading a harsh certainty for a beautiful possibility, and it feels like the best bargain she has ever been offered. And what of her father, Anguta? You see the conflict warring in his weathered face. His hunter's instincts are screaming that something is wrong. This stranger is not right. He is too smooth, too different. He doesn't carry the scent of a real man, the scent of sweat and blood and honest effort. But then he looks at his daughter, at the rapt expression on her face, and his exhaustion overrules his suspicion. For months, she has been a source of conflict and shame in his home. He has argued with her, pleaded with her, despaired over her, and now, this strange being has accomplished what he could not. He has found a way to make her agree to be a wife. A part of him, the weary, desperate father, just wants the problem to be solved. He convinces himself that maybe this is a good thing. Perhaps this stranger is some great spirit or a powerful man from a distant, wealthy tribe. He allows his hope to silence his intuition. Sedna takes a slow breath, the cold air stinging her lungs one last time. She gives a single, sharp nod. That is all. There are no joyful tears, no romantic declarations. It is a quiet, simple act of acceptance. The stranger, in turn, shows no surprise. He seems to have expected this all along. He inclines his head slightly, a gesture of triumph. He turns to Anguta. She will need nothing, he says, his voice leaving no room for argument. I have everything prepared. The deal is done. The decision is made. And as Sedna turns her back on her father's home, on the familiar scent of seal oil and the faces of her people, you feel a profound sense of dread. She is stepping out of her world and into a story, a fantasy woven from words. But promises are just breath, and breath turns to frost in the cold Arctic air. There is no ceremony to mark her departure. The stranger leads her to his sleek black kayak, and she settles into the small space behind him, her knees tucked uncomfortably. Her father, Anguta, watches from the shore, his face unreadable. The rest of the village keeps a respectful distance, their silence a heavy blanket over the scene. Is it fear? Awe? You cannot tell. As the stranger pushes the kayak into the frigid water with a powerful shove and leaps in, Sedna takes one last look at the place that has been her entire world. The low, snow-covered homes, the racks of drying fish, the familiar, weathered faces. And then, with a dip of the paddle, they are moving, and the world she knows begins to shrink behind her. You are in the kayak with her, feeling the shocking cold of the Arctic Ocean just inches away. separated only by a thin layer of stretched sealskin. The movement is unnervingly smooth and fast. The stranger paddles with a tireless, metronomic rhythm, each stroke identical to the last, propelling the small craft forward at a speed that seems unnatural. There's no in-flight entertainment on this trip, just the steady, hypnotic shush-plunk of the paddle in the water. It's a sound that at first seems reassuring, a sound of progress towards the promised land of soft furs and endless warmth. The shoreline, with its familiar landmarks and craggy inlets, is her only map. Inuit hunters were masters of navigation, using a sophisticated mental catalog of coastal features, currents, and seasonal bird migrations to find their way. Navigational historians continue to marvel at the sophisticated, non-instrumental methods used by polar peoples, debating the precise cognitive maps they must have employed to traverse such a seemingly featureless world. But this stranger isn't hugging the coast. He isn't following any known route. He points the nose of the kayak directly out to sea, toward the empty gray horizon where the water and sky become one. This is wrong. Every instinct Sedna possesses, every lesson learned from her father, tells her that this is not how you travel. This is how you get lost. This is how you die. For the first hour, a spark of defiant excitement keeps her warm. She is finally doing it, leaving. Leaving the expectations, the boredom, the scent of her father's disapproval. Every paddle stroke puts more distance between her and that life. But as the familiar shapes of the land begin to flatten, to lose their detail, and finally to melt completely into the gray line of the horizon, a different feeling begins to creep in. It's a profound and terrifying sense of isolation. The world is suddenly reduced to three things: the churning gray water, the oppressive gray sky, and the silent, black-clad back of the man in front of her. It's the worst kind of road trip. The driver is silent and vaguely menacing. The scenery is monotonous and there's absolutely no way to get out. He doesn't speak to her. Not a single word. He doesn't turn to see if she is cold or frightened. He just paddles, his focus absolute. The silence stretches, broken only by the cry of a lone gull and the slap of waves against the hull. In this unnerving quiet, Sedna's mind begins to wander. The stranger's promises, which had seemed so bright and warm back on the shore, now begin to feel thin and distant. The vibrant images of a cozy, windless tent start to fade, replaced by the stark, monochrome reality of her situation. She thinks of frightening stories the elders tell in the long winter nights. Tales of the Kivitok, men who wander into the wilderness and become something other than human, possessed by spirits and gaining terrible powers. The stranger's solitary nature, his unnatural skill, his disregard for the known ways, it all begins to align with these half-believed fears. A cold dread, far deeper than the chill of the sea spray, begins to seep into her bones. What does she really know about this man? Nothing. She doesn't know his name, his family, or even what his face looks like beneath those ivory goggles. She traded her entire world for a handful of pretty words from a complete stranger. It is a classic case of not reading the terms and conditions before you click. I agree. As the hours pass and the sunless sky begins to darken from a flat gray to a deep, bruised purple, her last vestiges of hope begin to fray. The rhythmic paddling continues on and on, a relentless engine carrying her deeper into the unknown. The paradise he promised feels less and less like a destination, and more like the bait in a trap. Just as the last of her hope seems to dissolve into the icy water, a new shape emerges from the gloom. It is land, but not the kind of welcoming shoreline she knows. It is a monolithic spire of black rock, jutting from the sea like a broken tooth. There are no gentle slopes, no beaches for a safe landing. It is a fortress of stone besieged by crashing waves and shrieking winds. The cliffs are alive with the frantic, chaotic movement of thousands of seabirds, their calls a constant, maddening symphony. These bird colonies were vital resources for the Inuit, who would risk their lives climbing such cliffs to harvest eggs and birds. But seeing it now as a destination fills you with a sense of primal dread. This is not a place for people. The stranger navigates the treacherous waves with his usual impossible skill, guiding the kayak into a narrow, protected cleft at the base of the rock. "We are home," he says, and for the first time, his melodious voice sounds thin and harsh against the roar of the wind and surf. He gets out, pulling the kayak onto a slim wedge of rock and motions for her to follow. The climb is terrifying. You scramble after him up a path that is little more than a series of handholds on the sheer rock face, the wind threatening to peel you from the cliff at any moment. Your fingers are numb and raw, and the sea churns hundreds of feet directly below you. Finally, breathless and trembling, you pull yourself onto a wide ledge, and there it is, her new home. The grand illusion, so carefully constructed with his beautiful words, shatters in an instant. There is no magnificent tent. There are no soft skins. There are no lamps burning with a steady, warm light. Before you is a massive, sprawling, disgusting nest. It is a chaotic tangle of dried seaweed, driftwood, muddy clumps of moss, and the bones of fish and small animals. The place is a monument to filth, and it's completely exposed to the relentless, howling wind he promised she would never feel again. If this were a vacation rental, you'd be demanding a refund and leaving a scathing 1-star review. Host was literally a monster. 010 would not be abducted again. The stench hits you like a physical blow. It's a nauseating cocktail of ammonia from the bird droppings that stain the rocks white, the oily, rancid smell of rotting fish, and a unique, musky foulness that seems to emanate from the very fabric of the nest itself. You see now that the soft furs he promised are a few mangy, matted pelts scattered amongst the debris, crawling with sea lice. This isn't a home, it's a garbage dump with a view, and then he turns to face you. With a slow, deliberate movement, he reaches up and pulls back his hood. He removes the ivory snow goggles, and you finally see his face. The reality is far worse than any of your creeping fears. He isn't human. It's the ultimate catastrophic catfish reveal. His skin is a pale, waxy gray, his nose a sharp, hooked beak, and his eyes are not the warm eyes of a man but the cold, black, unblinking beads of a bird. His mouth opens, and the sound that comes out is not the charming voice of a suitor, but a harsh, guttural squawk. He is a fulmar, a storm petrel, a bird spirit in the guise of a man. The fulmar, a bird common to these northern cliffs, has a particularly charming biological trait. As a defense mechanism, it can vomit a foul, sticky orange stomach oil at its enemies. Suddenly, the unique, disgusting smell of the nest makes perfect, horrifying sense. Mythologists and comparative religion scholars often debate the significance of therianthropy, the transformation of humans into animals and vice versa. In folklore, seeing it as a way to explore the blurred lines between the human and natural worlds. For Sedna, the debate is over. She is married to a bird, and her promised paradise is a literal bird's nest on a desolate, storm-racked cliff. Every promise he made was a lie, a twisted mockery of her desires. The home with no wind is the windiest place she has ever been. The soft skins are filthy, bug-infested scraps. The endless supply of tender fish will be the raw, bloody scraps he brings back in his beak. She has escaped the predictability of her father's home only to be trapped in a nightmare. The silence of her journey is over, replaced by the endless screeching of the gulls and the mocking caw of her new husband. She stands there on the cliff's edge, the wind tearing at her hair, her beautiful dreams crumbling into dust and feathers around her. She has been a fool, and she knows with a certainty as cold and hard as the rock beneath her feet that her suffering is only just beginning. The first few days are a blur of shock and horrified disbelief. You, as Sedna, keep expecting to wake up. This has to be a nightmare, a punishment from the spirits for your pride. But each time you open your eyes, the reality is still there, cold and sharp and smelling of fish guts. The wind never stops. The screeching of the birds is the first thing you hear in the morning and the last thing you hear as you drift into a fitful, shivering sleep. The beautiful, proud girl who turned away the finest hunters in the land is gone, replaced by a cold, terrified creature huddled in a filthy nest. Your life shrinks to the size of this narrow, windswept ledge. There is no work to do, nothing to occupy your hands or your mind. Back home, your days were filled with purpose, softening skins, sewing warm clothing, tending the lamp, preparing food, helping to raise the younger children. You had resented those tasks, seen them as a form of drudgery. Now you would give anything for the simple, comforting rhythm of that work. Here, your only task is to endure, to wait. Your husband, the Fulmer spirit, is no longer a charming suitor. He is a bird. He leaves for hours, soaring on the wind currents over the vast, gray ocean. He never speaks to you in that melodious human voice again. The only sounds he makes are the harsh, alien cries of his kind. When he returns, it is without warmth or affection. He comes with food, which is the only thing that keeps you alive. He will land on the ledge, waddle over to you, and unceremoniously drop a fish at your feet from his beak. Sometimes it is whole. More often, it is mangled and half-eaten. This is your meal. This is the endless supply of tender fish he promised. Welcome to the worst all-inclusive resort in mythology. The consumption of raw meat and fish was a normal part of the Inuit diet. Nutritional anthropologists still debate how these traditional high-fat, low-carbohydrate diets provided all necessary vitamins and prevented deficiency diseases like scurvy, but it's clear they were perfectly adapted to this world. But the food you ate at home was different. It was part of a ritual, a community. It was butchered with care, shared among family, and eaten with a sense of gratitude. This is not that. This is a scrap, a cast-off. You tear at the cold, rubbery flesh with your teeth, the taste of raw blood and seawater filling your mouth. It is not a meal. It is a disgusting act of survival. You eat because you must, your stomach churning with a mixture of hunger and revulsion. You think about things like seal finger, a nasty infection hunters could get from bacteria on the animals, and you shudder, knowing there is no healer here, no one to care for you if you fall ill. The days blur into an indistinguishable gray misery. The sun is a distant memory. Your fine parka, once your pride, grows ragged and thin, offering little protection from the damp and the cold. You are always shivering. The filth of the nest has worked its way into your clothes, into your hair, under your fingernails. You are losing yourself, the memory of the clean, proud girl you once were fading like a puff of breath in the wind. Your only companions are the gulls, who watch you with their bright, pitiless eyes, occasionally darting in to steal a scrap of your wretched meal. The irony is a constant, bitter presence in your mind. Oh, how this experience puts things in perspective. You remember turning away that strong young hunter because his teeth were a little crooked. You remember scorning the man from the inland because he smelled of moss. How you long for them now. How you long for their simple, honest, human presence. You would gladly spend the rest of your life smelling moss if it meant you could be warm and safe and clean. You had wanted something more than the life offered to you, and now you have it. You have a life of utter solitude, of constant fear, of gnawing hunger and profound, soul-crushing regret. The high perch of your pride has led you to this high, desolate perch of a nest. You stare out at the endless, churning ocean, the same gray as the sky, the same gray as your future. There is no escape. There is no one to help you. There is only the wind, the birds, and the crushing weight of your own foolish choice. There comes a point where despair can no longer be contained within the silent confines of your own skull. The misery, the regret, the constant grinding suffering, it builds and builds until it has to escape. You are sitting on the edge of the foul nest, staring at the horizon that has become your prison wall. The wind is a physical force pushing and pulling at you, trying to scour you from the rock. For weeks it has been your tormentor. Today you decide to use it. A sound escapes your chapped lips. It's not a word, not at first. It's a low, guttural moan of pure anguish, the kind of sound an animal makes when it's caught in a trap. But then, you give it shape. You force air from your lungs, past a throat raw from cold and disuse, and you form a note. It is thin, reedy, and pathetic against the roar of the wind, but it is a human sound. It is your sound. And you sing. You sing of your foolishness, of the pride that led you here. You sing of the handsome young hunter with the crooked teeth and how you would now welcome his flawed smile. You sing of the man who smelled of moss and how you now ache for the honest scent of the earth. In Inuit culture, song was a powerful tool. People had personal songs, and they even had song cousins who would engage in ritualized song duels to settle disputes, trading poetic insults instead of blows. Your song is a duel with your own fate, a grievance aired to the only audience you have, the gulls and the empty sky. It's the most tragic, one-sided open mic night in history. Your voice grows stronger, fueled by the sheer force of your regret. You remember the warmth of your father's karmak, the soft, steady glow of the kulak lamp, the smell of seal stew, the sound of shared laughter. These memories, once sources of resentment, are now impossibly precious treasures you squandered. And so you sing your father's name. Anguta. Oh, my father, Anguta. Your voice cracks with the weight of the name. It's an apology. It's a confession. It's the desperate, tearful voicemail of a child who has made a terrible mistake and just wants to come home. You stand up on the narrow ledge, a small, defiant figure against the vast, indifferent landscape. You turn your face into the wind, letting it catch your words and carry them away. You pour every last ounce of your sorrow, your longing, your terror into that song, sending it out over the churning gray water as a physical message. It's a desperate act, the ancient equivalent of throwing a message in a bottle into the ocean. The chances of it reaching its destination are practically zero, but it's better than doing nothing. It's the first choice you've truly made since you agreed to this nightmare. Ethnomusicologists still explore how the unique acoustic properties of the Arctic landscape, with its vast ice sheets and quiet air, may have shaped the vocal traditions and storytelling of its inhabitants. Sound can travel in strange ways here. The air is often so clear and still that voices can carry for miles. And sometimes, the very light plays tricks. A phenomenon known as a fata morgana can create complex mirages on the horizon, making distant things appear close or impossibly warped. Perhaps sound can travel in a similar, magical way. Perhaps a lament born of such profound suffering has its own unnatural power. You sing until your throat is shredded and you have no voice left, only a hoarse whisper. You sing until you collapse back into the filth of the nest, exhausted, empty. You have sent your plea out into the world. Now there is nothing left to do but wait. You watch the seabirds wheel and dive. You listen to the endless roar of the wind. And you wonder, is there anyone out there? Is anyone listening? Or was your song just another futile sound swallowed by the vast, hungry silence of the north? In the crushing emptiness that follows, you don't feel hope. Not really. But you feel a change. The heavy, passive weight of your despair has been replaced by the sharp, painful thrum of a desperate, impossible wish. Your perspective shifts now, leaving the desolate cliff and traveling back across the vast gray sea. You are with her father, Anguta, back in the familiar world of the winter settlement. Weeks have passed since Sedna's departure. A strange quiet has settled over his home. At first it was a relief, a welcome respite from the tension and conflict that his daughter's stubbornness had caused. He told himself he had done the right thing. He had seen her married. Her fate was her own now, and he had fulfilled his duty. He threw himself into the rhythms of the hunt, trying to bury the nagging seed of doubt under a mountain of hard work and exhaustion. But the doubt remained, a cold, hard knot in his stomach that would not dissolve. He would find himself watching other fathers with their daughters, seeing them laugh or work together, and a sharp, unfamiliar pang of loss would strike him. He saw the whispers of the other villagers, the sideways glances that wondered about the strange feathered suitor who had come and gone so quickly. He had made a bargain, and in the long, dark nights he was beginning to fear he had paid too high a price. Today, he is far from the settlement, alone on the immense flatness of the sea ice, checking a line of seal breathing holes. The silence out here is absolute, broken only by the groan of the shifting ice and the whisper of the wind across the snow. He has built a small temporary igloo as a shelter from the wind, a marvel of engineering where the domed shape of the snow blocks creates a space of surprising warmth and acoustic stillness. As he rests inside, gnawing on a piece of dried meat, he hears it. At first it's nothing. A trick of the wind, a high-pitched whine that sounds almost like a voice. He dismisses it, but it comes again, a faint thread of sound woven into the wind's eternal song, like a ghostly radio signal fading in and out. Psychologists and anthropologists have long debated the interplay between environmental stimuli and belief. questioning whether experiences attributed to the supernatural are rooted in unusual but explainable physical phenomena. Perhaps it was infrasound, the low-frequency vibrations from distant storm-tossed waves that can create a feeling of profound unease. But this feels like more than that. This feels personal. He steps outside the igloo, pulling his parka hood tight, and scans the empty white horizon. The sound is still there, a thin, mournful melody that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It is a song of pure, undiluted sorrow, a song of regret, a song of terror. It is a sound that no natural creature could make. It is the sound of a breaking heart. His own heart begins to pound in his chest, a frantic drum against his ribs. The sound is achingly, horrifyingly familiar. It is the cadence of his daughter's voice, and then a single word pierces through the wordless lament, a gust of wind carrying it directly to his ears, as clear as if she were standing right beside him. Anguta. The sound shatters his carefully constructed denial. The cold knot of doubt in his stomach explodes into a fire of pure, agonizing guilt. He was right to be suspicious. The stranger was a lie. The feathers, the hidden face, the impossible promises. He had seen all the signs and he had ignored them because it was easier. He had let his frustration with his daughter, his own selfish desire for a quiet home, blind him to the danger. He hadn't found her a husband. He had sold her to a monster. The realization hits him with the force of a physical blow, knocking the air from his lungs. He stumbles back, his face a mask of horror. That horror quickly curdles into a different emotion. Rage. A white-hot, cleansing fury. It is a rage directed at the feathered creature that stole his daughter, but it is also a rage directed at himself, at his weakness, his foolishness, his failure as a father. And in that fire of guilt and rage, a new resolve is forged. It is simple. It is absolute. He will get her back. He doesn't know where she is. He doesn't know what he will face. But none of that matters. The time for doubt and denial is over. His path is now brutally, terrifyingly clear. He abandons his seal hunt, leaving his gear on the ice, and turns back toward the settlement, his stride filled with a new and terrible purpose. He is no longer just a father. He is a rescuer, and he will bring his daughter home, or he will die in the unforgiving sea. You are Anguta, and your heart is a cold, heavy stone in your chest. When you return to the settlement, you move like a man possessed. The world has lost its color and texture. Everything has been stripped down to a single burning purpose. You ignore the questioning eyes of your neighbors, the worried pleas of your wife. Her words are just noise, a distraction from the mission that now consumes you. Your guilt is a compass, and its needle points out to the cold, gray sea. You go directly to your kayak. Not the one you use for daily hunting, but your best one, the one you made yourself years ago. Its sealskin hull perfectly stitched and waterproofed. Its whalebone frame strong and light. You check every seam, every lashing with a meticulous, focused fury. You are preparing for a battle. You secure your sharpest harpoon, its ivory head a deadly point of light in the gloom. You take your ulu, your wife's knife, but in your hands, it is not a tool for butchering meat. It is a weapon. You are a man with a very particular set of skills, and your daughter has been taken. This is not a hunt for food. It is a hunt for justice. Without a word of goodbye, you push the kayak into the frigid water. The sky is a low, oppressive ceiling of bruised gray cloud, the sea a churning mirror of its bleakness. You begin to paddle. Your movements are not frantic but are filled with a deep, relentless power. Each stroke is a word and a silent, furious prayer. I'm coming. For you. The settlement shrinks behind you, and soon you are alone, a single, determined man in a tiny boat, pitting yourself against the vast, indifferent ocean. Oral traditions from across the Arctic contain numerous accounts of hunters undertaking seemingly impossible journeys, and scholars still debate how much of this is historical feat and how much is mythological hyperbole. Inuit hunters were renowned for their endurance, capable of paddling for days on end. You, as Anguta, tap into that deep cultural well of strength, but yours is amplified by the fire of your guilt. You do not feel the cold. You do not feel fatigue. Your rage is your fuel, and it burns hot enough to keep the encroaching chill of the Arctic at bay. How do you find your way? You have no map. The stranger left no trail, but you follow the ghost of your daughter's voice. It is no longer a clear sound, but an instinct, a pull in your gut that tells you which way to point the nose of your kayak. It's the ultimate version of not stopping for directions, guided by a supernatural sense of paternal instinct. You scan the horizon, your hunter's eyes searching not for the puff of a seal's breath, but for a landmark that does not belong, a jagged spire of rock that looks like a prison. In a way, your state of mind is close to the creation of a Tupilak, the avenging monster from Greenlandic lore. You are not sending a monster to seek vengeance, you have become the monster, a human instrument of wrath aimed squarely at the heart of your enemy. Hours turn into a day into a night lit only by the faint, ghostly glow of the water. You do not stop. You do not rest. The rhythmic pull of your muscles, the constant slap of waves against the hull, the bite of the salt spray on your face. This is your new reality. The world of home and hearth seems like a distant dream. The only real thing is the journey, the pursuit. You are cutting a path through the water, a silent arrow of vengeance. Finally, as a new day dawns with no sun, only a slight lessening of the gray gloom, you see it. A dark shape on the horizon, a black pinnacle of rock rising from the sea. Exactly as your intuition had pictured it. It is wreathed in a chaotic cloud of seabirds, their distant cries now audible over the sound of the waves. A cold, grim satisfaction settles over you. This is the place. This is the prison. Your journey is nearing its end, but you know the hardest part is yet to come. You paddle faster, your heart now a cold, steady drum, your mind clear and sharp. You are no longer just a father. You are an executioner, come to reclaim what was stolen from you. You are Anguta, and you have reached the enemy's fortress. You secure your kayak in a small, hidden cove, the dark water sucking at the rocks around you. The air is thick with the stench of guano and the deafening screams of 1,000 birds. It is a wall of sound that serves as perfect cover for your approach. This is now a stealth mission, and you move with the silent, deadly grace of a polar bear stalking a seal. You begin to climb. The cliff face is a treacherous ladder of sharp, wet rock. Archaeological evidence for specialized rock climbing tools among Arctic peoples is scarce, leading to the debate that such feats were either exaggerated in myth or accomplished with a level of skill and bravery that is hard for modern minds to comprehend. For you, it is simply a task that must be done. Your fingers, tough and calloused from a lifetime of hard work, find purchase in the smallest cracks. Your sealskin boots grip the stone. You do not look down. Your gaze is fixed upward, toward the ledge where your daughter is imprisoned. As you near the top, the stench becomes almost unbearable. You pull yourself over the final ledge, and your hunter's eyes take in the scene in a single, sickening glance. The nest is even more foul than you could have imagined, a place of profound wrongness. You see a twisted mockery of human life combined with raw animal instinct, a disturbing echo of the ancient concept of atavism, where ancestral traits re-emerge. And in the center of the filth, you see her. You, Sedna, are huddled in the rags of your former parka, your back to the cliff. You are a creature of pure despair, barely clinging to the will to live. You hear a sound, the scrape of a boot on rock, that is different from the usual scrabble of bird claws. You don't even bother to look up at first, assuming it's your monstrous husband returning. But the sound is followed by a human grunt of effort. Slowly, you turn your head. Through the matted curtain of your black hair, you see a figure, a man, your father. For a moment, your mind refuses to process the image. He must be a hunger-induced hallucination, a final cruel trick of your broken spirit. But he takes a step closer, and his face is etched with a pain and a fury that is so real, so visceral, it cuts through your apathy. It is him. He is here. A sound, half sob, half gasp, escapes your throat. There is no time for tears or recriminations. There's no dramatic reunion speech. This is an extraction. Anguta's eyes burn with a cold fire. He sees your wasted form, the filth you are living in, and his guilt and rage become a single sharp point of purpose. He crosses to you in 2 strides. "Sedna," he says, his voice a low, urgent command. "We are leaving. Now." He hauls you to your feet. You are weak, your legs trembling, and you lean on him. His solid, familiar presence a comfort so profound it almost makes you weep. But the tears can wait. Survival comes first. The descent is a nightmare. Anguta goes first, guiding your feet, his strong hands a constant reassuring pressure, preventing you from falling to your death on the rocks below. Every second is an eternity. Every gust of wind is the beat of the fulmar's wings. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic prisoner in your chest. But finally, your feet touch the stony beach of the hidden cove. He shoves you gently into the kayak, taking the seat behind you to paddle. With a powerful push, you are free of the island, the cursed rock receding behind you. Anguta paddles with a desperate, burning strength, his muscles screaming in protest. The kayak flies across the water, a tiny vessel carrying a world of hope and fear. You huddle in the front, not daring to look back, your eyes fixed on the empty horizon ahead. You are out. You are free. But the silence in the kayak is thick with a shared, unspoken terror. He isn't back yet. He hasn't seen you're gone. The first stage of the escape is complete, but you both know this is far from over. Your getaway vehicle is, after all, just a small, skin-on-frame boat, and your enemy has wings. For a brief, beautiful hour there is hope. The cursed island is a distant smudge, and then it is nothing. There is only the rhythmic sound of your father's paddle and the wide open sea before you. A fragile sense of relief begins to bloom in your chest. The first warmth you felt in what seems like a lifetime. You, Sedna, huddle in the front of the kayak, the salt spray on your face feeling like a baptism, washing away the filth and despair of the nest. You, Anguta, paddle with the strength of 10 men, your guilt-fueled rage now transformed into a powerful engine of deliverance. You are getting away with it. You might actually make it, but you have forgotten who or what you are dealing with. Back on the island, the Fulmar spirit returns from his hunt, a fat Arctic char clamped in his beak. He soars toward the ledge, lets out a proprietary squawk, and lands. He waddles toward the nest, ready to drop the offering at his bride's feet. But the nest is empty. He cocks his head, a flicker of avian confusion in his black, beady eyes. He lets out another, louder call. There is no answer. The fish drops from his beak. He hops around the nest, peering into the shadows. She is gone. The confusion evaporates, replaced by a pure, incandescent fury. A sound tears from his throat. A sound that is not a bird's cry, but a shriek of pure, cosmic rage. It is a sound that seems to shake the very foundations of the rock. A terrifying, world-ending boom like the sky trumpets of modern, unexplained phenomena. He launches himself into the air, his powerful wings beating a furious rhythm, and his sharp eyes scan the empty ocean. And then he sees it. A tiny black speck, impossibly far away but unmistakably a kayak, heading for the distant shoreline of the human world. His shriek changes from one of rage to one of command. He is a spirit of this place, a lord of the sea and sky, and his betrayal has woken a terrible power within him. He calls upon his kin, the spirits of the air and the water. He summons the wind. In the kayak, you both hear the shriek, a faint but needle-sharp sound that pierces your bubble of hope. A cold dread washes over you. He knows. Anguta's paddling becomes more frantic, but it's a futile gesture. You watch in horror as the sky undergoes a terrifying, unnatural transformation. The flat, gray ceiling of cloud begins to churn and boil. The color drains away, replaced by a sickening, bruised black purple, and it descends with the speed of a falling blanket. The change is too fast, too violent to be natural. This isn't weather. It's a weapon. Climatologists and folklorists occasionally collaborate to study how extreme, localized weather events in the past might have been interpreted as supernatural acts. The sudden, violent katabatic winds of Greenland, the Pittorak, can spring up without warning and unleash hurricane-force destruction. What is happening now is a supernatural version of that terror. The wind hits you not as a gust but as a solid wall of force, threatening to rip the paddle from Anguta's hands. The sea, moments ago just choppy, begins to heave and swell. The waves are no longer just waves. They are moving mountains of black, angry water, their peaks crowned with frothing white lips that seem to snarl at you. Rain and sleet begin to fall, not vertically, but driven horizontally by the wind, striking your exposed faces like 1,000 tiny knives. The tiny kayak is lifted up the face of a colossal wave, held for a terrifying moment at its peak, with a sickening view of the churning chaos all around you, and then plunged violently down into the trough. It's like being in a toy boat in a washing machine. The difficulty level of this escape has just been cranked up to a nightmare setting. Anguta is no longer paddling for progress. He is fighting for balance, for survival, every muscle in his body straining to keep the kayak from being swamped or capsized. The hope of escape is gone, replaced by the primal, immediate terror of drowning in the cold, furious dark. The Fulmer's rage has become the world, and you are trapped in the very heart of it. The world is a roaring, liquid chaos. You, Anguta, are at the center of it, but your control is an illusion. You are no longer paddling. You are just bracing, your paddle a flimsy rudder against the colossal, malicious will of the sea. Every wave that crashes over the side of the kayak brings in gallons of black, freezing water. The small vessel, once so light and responsive, now feels heavy, sluggish, a coffin in the making. Your arms and shoulders are on fire, your strength leached away by the relentless cold and the impossible effort of just staying upright. The heroic resolve that carried you across the sea to your daughter's prison is gone. That fire of righteous fury has been utterly extinguished by the icy reality of the storm. Survival psychologists still debate the point at which prosocial behaviors like altruism collapse under extreme stress, giving way to a more primitive self-preservation instinct. You have just found that point. Your grand mission, your quest for paternal atonement, all of it has been stripped away, leaving only one raw, screaming nerve of a thought. I do not want to die here. Your brain, which was a sharp, focused tool of the hunter, is now just a panicked animal in the cage of your skull. It's like a computer that has been overwhelmed with too much data. The higher functions are crashing, leaving only the base operating system of survival. You are no longer a father. You are no longer a rescuer. You are just a body, fighting to keep its head above the water, to draw one more breath. And in this terrifying, stripped-down state, your fear needs a focus. It needs a reason. It needs someone to blame. You look at the huddled form in front of you. Sedna, your daughter. An hour ago, the sight of her filled you with love and a burning need to protect. Now, as a wave sloshes icy water up to your waist, you look at her and a new thought, ugly and reptilian, slithers into your mind. She is the reason for this. Her pride, her foolishness, her refusal to marry a good, honest man. She is the one who brought this curse, this winged monster, this impossible storm upon you. She is not your beloved child to be saved. She is the anchor that is pulling you down into the dark. This is a madness born of sheer terror, a state akin to the Pibloktok, that Arctic hysteria where the mind simply breaks under an unbearable weight. The world has shrunk to the pitching gunnels of this tiny boat, your personal sinking island. The kayak is too heavy. The water is rising faster than you can bail it. Your muscles are failing. In the cold, cruel calculus of your panicked mind, the equation becomes terrifyingly simple. The boat is sinking. There is too much weight. To save the boat, to save yourself, something must go. You, Sedna, are oblivious to the dark transformation happening in your father's heart. You are lost in your own terror, your hands gripping the sides of the kayak, your face numb from the wind and the sleet. You trust him. He is your father. He came for you. He is your rescuer. You huddle as small as you can, trying to be less of a target for the wind, trying to believe that his strength, which has always been a constant in your life, will be enough to see you through this. You feel the kayak lurch and dip, a sickening slide into a deep trough between waves, and you squeeze your eyes shut, praying to spirits you are not even sure you believe in anymore. But the man behind you is no longer the father you have always known. He is a stranger, a vessel for a fear so absolute it has become its own entity. His love for you, his guilt, his paternal duty, all of it has been washed overboard, lost in the black, churning water. There is only the fear and the simple, monstrous equation it has produced. You are the weight. You are the problem. And in the heart of the storm, your rescuer is about to make a terrible choice. The shift happens in a heartbeat. One moment, you, Anguta, are a man fighting a storm. The next, you are the storm's instrument. The panicked, reptilian part of your brain has taken complete control. You no longer think, you simply act. Your decision, born of abject terror, is now a physical imperative. You lunge forward. You, Sedna, are huddled in the front of the kayak, your world a chaos of noise and motion. You feel a sudden, violent movement behind you. You start to turn, and then his hands are on you. These are not the hands of your father. They are not the hands that held you as a child, or the strong hands that just pulled you from a cliffside prison. They are the hands of a stranger, hard and impersonal, filled with a terrifying alien strength. There is no flicker of recognition in his eyes, only a wide, animal panic. You open your mouth to scream his name, but there is no time. With a desperate guttural roar that is lost in the storm's own voice, he lifts you. For a single, horrifying second, you are weightless, suspended between the heaving boat and the raging sky. And then he throws you. He throws you into the sea. The betrayal is so absolute, so unthinkable, that your mind cannot process it, but your body can. The impact with the water is not a splash, it's a physical blow. The cold is an entity, a living thing that instantly envelops you, its only purpose to extinguish the tiny spark of your life. It's not just a sensation, it's 1,000 burning knives stabbing every inch of your skin. The shock is so profound it drives every last bit of air from your lungs in a silent, involuntary gasp. Any ordinary person would have inhaled a lungful of black churning water right then, their life ending in a single gurgling moment. The reality of cold water shock is that it kills you long before hypothermia gets a chance. But something in you, something that is no longer quite human, refuses to let go. Perhaps it's the mammalian dive response, that ancient dormant reflex that slows the heart and preserves the brain. A quirky biological inheritance from a time when our ancestors were more connected to the water. Or perhaps it's just the sheer, indomitable force of your will. You do not inhale the water. Your eyes fly open in the crushing, murky deep, and all you see is the dark shape of the kayak above you, already pulling away. From Anguta's perspective, the act is a blur. He only knows that the weight is gone. The kayak, relieved of your body, lurches and then rises in the water, becoming instantly more buoyant, more manageable. In his fear-addled mind, this is a horrific justification. His drastic problem-solving method seems to be working. Forensic historians sometimes debate whether remains found in the Arctic are victims of accidents or of desperate survival choices, like abandoning the weak in a famine. Anguta has just made such a choice, sacrificing his own child for the chance to live. He doesn't look back. He can't. To look back would be to acknowledge what he has done, and his mind is too fragile for that. He grabs his paddle, his knuckles white, and digs it into the water, fighting to turn the kayak's nose into the next monstrous wave. He has committed the most monstrous act a father can commit. He has traded your life for his. The storm still rages, the wind still howls, but the greatest threat is no longer outside the boat. The greatest threat was the man who was supposed to be your savior. He has survived the wave, but he has sacrificed his soul to do it. And you, in the lethal, freezing darkness, are not dead yet. The shock is passing, replaced by a cold fury that is more powerful than any storm. The cold should have killed you. The shock, the weight of your sodden parka, the churning angry sea, by all the laws of nature, you, Sedna, should be a frozen corpse, sinking into the abyss. But the fire of your father's betrayal has ignited something within you, a core of heat and rage that the Arctic Ocean cannot extinguish. You are no longer his daughter, a victim, a rescued prisoner. You are a force of pure, furious will. Your only thought is the boat. You claw your way upward through a liquid world of blackness and chaos. Your lungs burn, demanding air. Your limbs, already stiffening, feel like logs tied to your body. But you kick, you pull, you fight, and with a final, desperate surge, your head breaks the surface. You gasp, inhaling a mouthful of salt spray and air that is so cold it feels like swallowing glass. The world is a screaming blur of wind and water. You see the kayak. It is still close. He hasn't escaped you yet. Fueled by a surge of rage-a-haul, you swim. It's not a graceful act, it's a frantic, clumsy struggle, but it is enough. Your hand, a numb, clumsy club, slaps against the taut sealskin of the hull. You flail, searching for a grip, and then your fingers, white and bloodless, find the gunwale. The top edge of the kayak, made from precious driftwood and lashed with sinew, becomes your entire world. You lock your grip. You, Anguta, have just regained a semblance of control over the kayak. For a fleeting second, you believe your monstrous sacrifice has worked. The boat is lighter. It responds. You might just live, and then you feel it. A sudden dead weight on the port side, pulling the kayak dangerously over. Your first thought is that you've snagged on a piece of ice, but that makes no sense in this open, raging sea. You dare to look over the side, and your blood, which was already chilled by the storm, turns to absolute ice. It is her. Her head, slick with water, her black hair plastered across a face that is blue with cold. She is not a ghost. She is not a memory. She is there, impossibly, horrifyingly alive. And her eyes are not the eyes of your daughter. They are the eyes of a spirit, of a predator, and they are fixed on you, burning with a cold, silent accusation that is louder than the storm. It's the ultimate horror movie jump scare. The monster you threw overboard is back and clinging to the side of your boat. Bioethicists and evolutionary biologists sometimes debate the ethical implications of the survival instinct, questioning at what point the drive to preserve oneself excuses actions that harm others. You are not debating. You are living the answer. Your instinct screams that this thing, this creature that was once your daughter, is still the weight that will drag you down to your death. Let go, you scream, your voice a ragged tear in the fabric of the wind's howl. Her only answer is to tighten her grip. Her other hand comes up out of the water, and she secures a two-handed hold. Her body is operating on a kind of dead-hand protocol, a reflexive, unstoppable drive to survive. Her higher thoughts are frozen, but her hands will not release their hold. She tries to pull herself up, to hoist her waterlogged body from the sea. The kayak lists violently, threatening to capsize, shipping a fresh wave of icy water. The terror in your heart blossoms into a new, sharper form of panic. She will kill you both. Her desperate struggle for life will be the end of yours. You are trapped in the most awkward and terrifying father-daughter reunion imaginable. The storm rages around you. The spirit of the Fulmar howls in the wind above. But the entire universe has shrunk to this single, terrible point of conflict. Her frozen fingers locked with impossible strength onto the side of your boat, and the frantic, desperate need in your heart to make her let go. Your mind, already broken by fear, scrambles for a solution. A final, unthinkable solution. Your panicked mind, Anguta, has found its solution. It is a solution so monstrous that a sane man would never conceive of it. But you are no longer sane. Fear has stripped your humanity away, leaving only the cold, desperate logic of survival. You see her fingers curled over the gunwale, the knuckles white with strain. In your terror-warped perception, they are not the hands of your child. They are the hooks of a sea monster, dragging you to your doom. You must cut them loose. You release the paddle, letting it drift on its retaining cord, and fumble for the tool tucked in your belt. It is the ulu, the crescent-shaped woman's knife, a tool for skinning seals, for preparing food, for trimming the wicks of lamps, for the creation and sustenance of life. In your hand, this symbol of hearth and home becomes a weapon of unthinkable brutality. You, Sedna, see the flash of polished slate and the glint of the ivory handle. You see the knife in your father's hand, and your mind, already reeling from the first betrayal, screams a silent final denial. He would not. He could not. It is a tool for your mother. It is a tool he has seen you practice with. It is not for this. But his face is a blank mask of terror, the face of a stranger. There is no father there anymore. He raises the ulu. You have no strength to pull away, no voice to plead. You can only watch as he brings the blade down with a grunt of desperate effort. It is not a clean, sharp slice. It is a percussive, sickening thud. The blade slams down on the first joints of your fingers on both hands, crushing bone and sinew against the hard driftwood of the gunwale. A searing, white-hot agony, so immense it transcends sound, explodes in your hands. The pain is absolute, a supernova of pure sensation that obliterates the cold, the fear, everything. Your grip, your only connection to the world of the living, is gone. Your hands are no longer your own. You slip back into the raging black water. But the story does not end there. This is not just an act of violence. It is an act of profane and terrible creation. Creation myths across the globe often feature a dismemberment motif, where the world is formed from the body of a primordial being. You are now that being, and your sacrifice is about to give birth to a new world. Your severed finger joints, your 10 top knuckles, tumble into the churning sea. They do not sink, they do not vanish. They begin to writhe, to twist and pulse with a strange new life. You watch through a haze of agony as they transform. The small white shapes of bone and flesh stretch and darken. They grow sleek, furred bodies, impossibly black and shiny. They sprout long, sensitive whiskers and develop large, dark, liquid eyes that seem to hold all the sorrow of the sea within them. In the space of a heartbeat, your severed fingers have become the first seals. They swim for a moment around you, their new bodies moving with a grace and power you could never have possessed. They look at you, their creator, their mother, with an expression of profound innocent sadness. Then they look up at the kayak, at the man who is their unwitting grandfather, their maker. You, Anguta, stare in abject horror. You have done it. You have freed the boat from her grip. But what is this? This is not natural. This is not possible. You have committed an atrocity, and it has answered you with a miracle. This is a form of sympathetic magic, where your violent act on a part of her has not destroyed life, but has instead created it, forever binding these new creatures to her. The seals, with one last sorrowful look, dive deep into the black water and disappear. You are alone in your kayak, in a storm that suddenly feels much, much worse. You are no longer just a man in danger. You are a man who has transgressed against the very laws of creation, and you are terrified of what you will create next. For a moment, there is a terrible, unnatural stillness in the heart of the storm. You, Anguta, are paralyzed, staring at the spot where the seals vanished, your mind trying to process the profane miracle you just witnessed. You are no longer fighting the sea. You are reeling from a battle with reality itself. But your respite is short-lived. A movement at the side of the kayak draws your eye, and a new wave of horror, colder and sharper than the first, washes over you. She is back. You, Sedna, are a being of pure, incandescent pain. Your hands are ruined, your fingers gone, but the fire in your soul will not be quenched. The agony is a beacon, a focal point for a will that is no longer human. You surge through the water again, propelled by this new terrible energy. You reach the kayak. You cannot grip it, but you can hook the raw, bleeding stumps of your hands over the gunwale. The pain is a distant, academic fact. The need to hold on is the only truth. Your father sees you return, and whatever was left of his sanity finally, completely shatters. His previous act of horrific violence was not a solution. It was a failure. The problem has returned, mangled and bleeding, but just as determined. He is trapped in a nightmare loop, a cycle of violence that only seems to produce more strangeness, more terror. His problem-solving skills have proven to be spectacularly counterproductive. Folklorists who study narrative patterns often point to the rule of 3 in traditional stories, where actions are repeated to build tension. Scholars debate whether this is a conscious storytelling device or a deeper structure of human cognition. For you, Anguta, it is not a story. It is a torment. You must repeat the act. You must cut again. There is no other thought in your head. He snatches up the ulu, its slate blade now darkened. There is no hesitation this time, no moment of decision. He is an automaton of fear. He sees the mangled hooks of your hands on his boat, and he brings the knife down again, harder this time, with a final desperate sob of terror. The blade bites deep, shearing through the second set of knuckles through the meat of your palms. It is a heavier, more brutal blow, severing your connection to the boat completely. These new, larger pieces of your flesh and bone tumble into the sea. And the miracle, the horrific, beautiful miracle, happens again, only this time on a grander scale. This is the sequel, and the special effects budget is clearly bigger. The chunks of your hand swell and distort, growing to an immense size. They sprout thick, bristly whiskers and tough, wrinkled hides. From two of the larger pieces, long, white, curving tusks of pure ivory emerge, gleaming with a ghostly light in the storm's gloom. The great walruses are born. Their scientific name, Odobenus rosmarus, means tooth-walking seahorse, a fittingly strange name for such a creature. They surface with a great exhalation of breath, their immense bodies displacing the water, their tusks so valuable for tools, for art, for survival, a testament to the depth of your wound. From the other pieces come the great bearded seals, the ugruk, larger and more placid than their smaller cousins, their whiskers long and elegant. They are creatures of weight and substance, born from a deeper, more profound act of violence. They bellow and groan, their voices deep and mournful, a bass counterpoint to the shriek of the wind. They look at you, their mother, their mangled creator, and in their placid eyes, there is a deep, ancient wisdom. They turn their gaze to the man in the kayak, the architect of their birth, and there is no accusation, only a vast, unsettling presence. Then, with a slow, powerful motion, they too sink beneath the waves, leaving you once again in the water, mutilated and abandoned. Your father stares at his handiwork, the bloody ulu in his hand, a man who, in trying to save his own life, has just finished populating the entire sea. And he knows, with a certainty that freezes his very soul, that this is still not the end. The storm has become a stage for a horrifying recurring play, and you are both its unwilling actors. You, Anguta, stand in your kayak, a butcher in a world of impossible biology. You, Sedna, are a testament to a will that has now surpassed the limits of flesh and bone. You are coming for the boat one last time, your hands are gone. There is nothing left to grip with, but you are beyond such limitations. With a final agonized surge, you hook the bloody stumps of your wrists over the gunwale, your thumbs, the last vestiges of your human hands, providing a desperate final purchase. It is a gruesome, pitiful hold, but it is a hold nonetheless. You have reached the boat. You will not let go. Your father looks at you, his eyes wide and vacant. There is no thought left in him, no reason, only a terrifying programmed response. The monster is back. The knife is the answer. He is completing the set. He performs the act as if in a trance, a grim and final repetition. He raises the ulu, its blade a dark crescent against the bruised sky, and brings it down for the third and final time. He chops at your wrists, severing your thumbs, the opposable digits that define humanity, and the remaining bloody heels of your palms. He has cut away your ability to hold, to grasp, to make. He has severed your final tie to his world. This time, you have nothing left to hold on with. This time you fall away from the boat and do not return. The last, largest pieces of your hand sink into the churning black water. They sink deeper than the others, down into the crushing, silent pressure of the deep. And then, the grand finale of this terrible creation begins. Down in the darkness, they begin to swell and swell. They grow to a size that is not animal but geological. The water heaves, and the sea itself seems to bend upward. From the deep rises a colossal dark shape, a living mountain of flesh. A bowhead whale, the great provider. Its mouth a cavernous curve, its body larger than any 10 longhouses. A single whale like this could feed a village for a year. Its bones the architecture of their homes, its blubber the light in their lamps. It is life on a scale you can barely comprehend, born from the most significant part of your hand. Its emergence is not a birth, it is an event, a reshaping of the world. Then another shape, ghostly white, surfaces beside it, the beluga, the sea canary, and another, this one with a single, impossible spiraling tusk of ivory, the narwhal, the unicorn of the sea, a creature of pure myth and magic born from this nightmare. The great whales have been made. Comparative mythologists note a recurring global theme of transformation from a divine or human state into animal form, a concept that scholars debate as either a cautionary tale or a way of explaining the sacred connection between humans and the animal world. You have just witnessed the most brutal, direct version of that connection. The great creatures surface and the world goes quiet. The wind seems to hold its breath. The waves seem to calm. The tiny kayak, with your father trembling inside it, is rendered utterly insignificant, a child's toy floating in a bathtub with giants. A plume of mist and air erupts from a blowhole, a sound like the world's first deepest breath. A colossal fluke wider than the kayak is long, rises gracefully into the air and crashes back into the sea, sending a wave that nearly swamps the boat. Then, from the depths, comes a new sound. It is a song, a series of low, mournful, and impossibly beautiful notes that vibrate through the water, through the hull of the kayak, and through the very bones of the man who is their cause. It is the song of the whales, a song of a new creation, a song of a terrible sorrow, a song for their mother, who now, finally, lets go of the world above. The final betrayal is complete. Your hands, the very tools that define a human being, are gone, transformed into the magnificent alien life that now sings in the deep. There is nothing left to hold on to. You, Sedna, finally let go. It is not a surrender, it is a release. You release your father, you release the kayak, you release the world of the air and the sky, the world that has brought you nothing but pain and betrayal. You stop fighting, and you begin to sink. You descend not like a drowning victim, thrashing and desperate, but like a stone returning to the foundation of the world. The chaos of the storm on the surface fades above you, its roar softening to a distant, muffled hum and then to nothing. You are entering a new realm, a world of silence, pressure, and profound, unending darkness. The light of the angry gray sky is a memory, then a faint, shimmering ceiling, then a pinprick, and then it is gone. You are in the absolute black. As you sink, a great change begins to work its way through you. Your human grief is too small a vessel for this much pain, this much betrayal. It shatters and something larger, colder and more ancient takes its place. Your rage does not cool, it solidifies, becoming the very marrow in your bones. Your sorrow does not lessen, it deepens, becoming as vast and as cold as the water around you. You are undergoing a hostile but necessary corporate restructuring of the soul. The Inuit believed a person had multiple spiritual components. Your human Tarnik, your consciousness is dissolving, and the powerful ancient Inua, the innate spirit of the sea itself, is flowing in to fill the void. You pass through clouds of marine snow, that constant, silent shower of organic particles falling from the world above, the only source of nourishment for the creatures of the abyss. You are part of this process now, a body descending, but you are not detritus. You are the new center of this ecosystem, the heart that will soon command it all. Your physical body begins to change. The useless, ruined stumps of your arms ache with a phantom cold that is no longer a torment but a source of power. Your legs, which can no longer walk on land, begin to fuse and flatten, reshaping themselves into a great, powerful fluke, a tail that can propel you through your new domain. Your hair, always your vanity, is unbound, growing with supernatural speed, a swirling black cloud in the darkness, a living net of your memories, your grudges, your pain. You are sinking to Adlivan, the land of the dead. Theologians and mythologists often debate whether the underworlds in various cultures should be interpreted as places of punishment or as more neutral realms. Adlivan is not a place of fire and torment. It is the bottom of the sea. It is a place of absolute cold, of crushing pressure, of eternal quiet. It is a place of waiting. It is to be your kingdom. It has zero curb appeal, but the security is unmatched. By the time your long descent is over, by the time your new tail touches the soft, silty floor of the ocean, the transformation is complete. The girl named Sedna is gone. The last vestiges of her warmth, her hope, her humanity, have been scoured away by the journey. In her place is something new. A goddess, a queen. You are the mother of the seals, the walruses, and the great whales. You are the keeper of the sea's vast and terrible power. You are the mistress of the underworld, the silent ruler of the cold, dark deep. You have completed the most brutal and tragic glow-up in all of mythology. You have lost everything, and in doing so, you have gained a terrible and lonely omnipotence. You settle onto your throne of mud and stone, and in the profound, crushing silence of the abyss, you begin your eternal watch. Time, as you once understood it, ceases to exist. There is no sun to mark the days, no moon for the nights. There is only the eternal, crushing present of the abyss. You are no longer a creature of breath and warmth. You are a being of pressure and cold, perfectly attuned to your new silent kingdom. You are the goddess of the deep, a powerful and deeply wounded queen on a throne of primordial ooze. Across the Arctic you will be known by many names, Nuliajuk, Arnaquagsak, and others, but your story and your power remain the same. Your form is magnificent and terrible. Your lower body is a great, graceful fluke, capable of moving you through the crushing darkness with a slow, majestic power. Your torso is still that of a woman, but your skin has a pale, ghostly luminescence, like the belly of a deep-sea fish. Your ruined hands, the source of your agony and your power, remain as they are, a constant throbbing reminder of the betrayal that unmade and remade you. And your hair. Your hair is a living mantle of power, impossibly long, swirling around you like a storm cloud of black silk, a tangible record of your sorrow. Your domain, Adlivin, is a vast, silent landscape. Great plains of silt stretch for miles, punctuated by strange volcanic rock formations that vent heat and minerals into the cold darkness. The bones of ancient, massive creatures litter the seafloor, the silent architecture of your realm. It is not empty. Ghostly, bioluminescent creatures drift through the water, their cold, chemical light the only illumination in the eternal night. They are your courtiers. And the souls of the dead, the tarnic of those who die at sea or of illness, drift down like marine snow to become your silent, whispering subjects. You are a landlord of the underworld, with a strict no living visitors policy. Comparative religion scholars often debate whether powerful female deities associated with the sea and the underworld represent a cultural memory of pre-patriarchal belief systems or are a psychological manifestation of the awe and terror inspired by the natural world. Looking at you, in your silent, majestic sorrow, both seem equally true. You are the terror of the deep, but you are also its heart. Your power is absolute. The creatures born from your own flesh are your phantom limbs, extensions of your will. The sleek, curious seals, the mighty, tusked walruses, the colossal, singing whales, they are all part of you. You feel their movements in the water as if they were your own. You can feel a seal being born in a cove hundreds of miles away. You can hear the song of a whale as it travels 1,000 miles to its feeding grounds. You are the ultimate resentful supply chain manager for the entire Arctic. With a thought, you can send the animals toward the hunters' kayaks, offering them up as a gift. With a flicker of anger, you can call them all back to you, hiding them in the deep, leaving the surface world barren and starving. The life and death of the people who live above now rests entirely in your mutilated hands. Your emotions are the weather of the sea. Your deep, abiding sorrow is the salt that makes the water bitter. Your cold, simmering rage is the crushing pressure of the abyss. When your grief overwhelms you, the sea becomes listless and still, the currents dying. When a memory of betrayal flashes through your mind, a sudden, violent squall can whip the surface into a frenzy miles above, capsizing the boats of unsuspecting hunters. You have become the living embodiment of the ocean's beauty and its capricious, deadly power. You sit in the crushing silence and you remember everything. You remember the parade of suitors and your own foolish pride. You remember the honeyed, lying words of the Fulmer spirit. You remember the terror of the storm. And most of all, you remember the two great betrayals of your father, the cowardice that threw you into the sea and the brutal panic that chopped away your hands. These memories do not fade. They are the core of your being, the furnace of your divine power. You are the most powerful being in your world, and you are utterly, eternally alone. You sit on your throne of silence and darkness, a goddess of grudges. But what of the world above? What of the people who live on the thin, frozen crust of the world, so far from your deep domain? Time passes for them. Your father, Anguta, eventually returned, a broken, haunted man with a story no one could fully believe. The storm passed. The seasons turn. Life for a while continues its familiar precarious rhythm. The people hunt, they love, they quarrel, they are born, and they die. They live by a complex set of rules, of taboos, the pitko, designed to keep the world in balance. But people are people. They are forgetful, careless, and sometimes they are cruel. And you, down in the dark, you feel everything. You learn that there is a terrible, invisible connection between the surface world and your own. A metaphysical cord that runs from their actions down to the depths of your sorrow. Every transgression, every broken taboo, has a physical consequence in your realm. Cultural anthropologists debate whether such complex taboo systems function as social control, a proto-environmental conservation strategy, or a spiritual framework. For you, the answer is simple. They are the rules that prevent the world from hurting you more. When the rules are broken, you are the one who feels it. A hunter, arrogant in his skill, kills a seal, but fails to show its spirit, the proper respect. He does not give its soul a drink of fresh water before he butchers it. That act of disrespect does not simply vanish. It congeals into a slimy, invisible thread of ingratitude that drifts down through the water and snags in your hair. A woman grieving a miscarriage does not observe the proper period of seclusion and purification, and her sorrow, now unclean, becomes a tangled knot of seaweed that catches in the long black strands. A family quarrels in secret. A man lies about his hunting partner. Someone commits a murder and hides the body. Each of these secret sins, these hidden violations, becomes a piece of metaphysical litter, a ghostly piece of debris, a fishhook of deceit, a shard of bone from an unspoken crime that is drawn, as if by a magnet, to your pain. Your hair, your magnificent living mantle, becomes a net for the filth of the human world. And because you have no fingers, you cannot brush it out. You cannot comb it. You cannot untangle the knots of their misdeeds. It is the ultimate cosmic bad hair day, and the consequences are apocalyptic. Each new tangle pulls at your scalp, a constant irritating reminder of your own mutilation, of your own helplessness. The growing filth is an agony, a torment that stokes the coals of your ancient rage. You are not actively punishing them. Your suffering itself becomes the punishment. And here is the terrible genius of this system. The creatures of the sea, the seals, the walruses, the whales, are born of your body. They are extensions of you. As your hair becomes more and more tangled and matted with the spiritual grime of humanity, it becomes a cage. The spirits of the animals, swimming near you, their mother, become ensnared in the matted, greasy knots. They are trapped. They cannot get free to swim up to the breathing holes in the ice. They cannot migrate past the hunters' coastlines. They are held captive by human transgression. The intricate string figures, the ajakat, that Inuit people use to tell stories have been twisted into this dark cosmic reality. A tangle of lines that means death. On the surface, the effect is simple and devastating. The animals vanish. The surest hunting grounds become barren. The sea, once a bountiful provider, is suddenly empty. The hunters paddle for days and return with nothing. The children begin to cry from hunger. The elders look to the horizon with grim, knowing eyes. Famine, the great cold monster of the north, begins to creep into the villages. The people know what this means. The balance has been broken. They have offended the great spirit of the sea. They have angered the powerful, lonely goddess who lives in the dark below, the one whose name is spoken only in whispers. They have tangled her hair. On the surface, in the world of cold air and hungry people, desperation has reached its peak. The hunters return day after day with nothing. The dogs are gaunt and silent. The laughter of children has been replaced by a thin, constant whining. When the skills of the hunters have failed, when the wisdom of the elders has provided no solution, The community turns to its last resort. They turn to the one who can walk between worlds. They call for the Angakuk, the shaman. You are the Angakuk now. You might be a man or a woman, old or young. Your power does not come from strength or status, but from the terrifying and intimate relationship you have with the world of spirits. You are the doctor of the soul, the weather worker, the finder of lost things. You are, in essence, the supernatural customer service representative for your people, and you are about to make a house call to the most powerful and dangerous entity they know. The entire village gathers in the largest igloo, the ceremonial house. They pack in shoulder to shoulder, their breath misting in the cold air, their faces tight with fear and a sliver of hope. The Quillic lamps are extinguished one by one, plunging the space into an absolute, expectant darkness. The only thing you can hear is the shallow, anxious breathing of your people and the frantic beating of your own heart. This is not a journey you can undertake lightly. To fail means starvation for your community and your own soul lost forever in the spirit realm. You hold your drum, your most sacred tool. It is a shallow hoop of driftwood, stretched with the taut, translucent skin of a caribou stomach. The drum is not just an instrument, it is your mount, your canoe, your vehicle to the other side. You begin to beat it with a bone striker, a slow, steady, monotonous rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. It is the sound of a giant's heart. You begin to chant, your voice low and guttural, singing the secret songs your helping spirits, your Turngate, have taught you. Neuroscientists and anthropologists who study trance states debate whether the complex visions experienced by shamans are purely hallucinations induced by rhythmic stimuli, or if they represent a genuine alternative state of consciousness. For you, the debate is meaningless. The world is peeling back. The familiar darkness of the igloo dissolves, and you feel a sickening, wrenching sensation. Your soul is pulling free from the warm, heavy vessel of your body. You leave your physical form behind, a slumped, sweating figure in the dark, and you step out into the cold, sharp reality of the spirit world. Your journey begins. You must travel down, following a path that is invisible to mortal eyes, a kind of axis mundi leading to the root of the world. This is the worst commute imaginable. The path is not easy. It is guarded and filled with peril. First, you must pass the home of the great dog that guards the way to Adlavun, a monstrous beast with fur of scoured rock and teeth of ice. It snarls, blocking your path, and you must use a powerful song of appeasement, a piece of spiritual knowledge gifted to you by your spirit helpers, to soothe it and pass by. Further down, the path becomes a bridge as narrow as the edge of a knife, stretching over a black, windy chasm where lost souls howl. You must walk across it with perfect balance, your focus absolute, for a single misstep means an eternity of falling. Your helping spirits fly beside you, whispering encouragement, shielding you from the shrieking winds. Finally, you must pass through a field of shifting, tumbling ice blocks that crash together like mountains, threatening to crush your spiritual form. You must time your passage perfectly, darting through the gaps in a deadly cosmic game. After what seems like an eternity of struggle, the chaotic violence of the journey gives way to a profound, crushing silence. The air, if you could call it that, grows colder, the pressure immense. You have arrived. You are at the bottom of the sea. You are in Adlivun. You stand at the threshold of a great, dim hall made of whalebone and stone. You take a breath, steady your spiritual form, and prepare to face the angry, wounded goddess who holds the life of your people in her tangled hair. You stand at the entrance to Sedna's hall, a tiny spirit form in the face of immense divine misery. The cold here is not the physical cold of ice, but the absolute zero of a broken heart. You enter. The chamber is vast and dim, lit by the faint, ghostly glow of strange, deep-sea creatures. At the far end, on a throne of black stone, sits the goddess. She is colossal, her form filling the space, her great tail coiled around the throne, and her back is turned to you. It is a deliberate, powerful snub, the ultimate expression of her contempt for the world of air-breathers you represent. You must be careful. Your power got you here, but only diplomacy and empathy will see you through. You are a combination of UN ambassador, therapist, and hairdresser to the gods, on the most important house call in history. You approach slowly, your spiritual feet making no sound on the silty floor. At the base of her throne, the great dog that guards her realm lies sleeping, soothed by your passage. You begin to speak, your voice soft and respectful, a stark contrast to the howling wind of the world you left behind. You do not make demands. You do not bargain. You confess. You tell her of the famine, the starving children, the desperation of her people. But you do not blame her. You take the blame yourself on behalf of everyone. You apologize for their carelessness, for their disrespect, for the broken taboos. You speak of the hunter who failed to honor the seal's spirit, of the grieving woman who did not purify herself, of the secret lies and angers that have festered in the village. You acknowledge that their transgressions have caused her pain, that the filth of their world has become her torment. You are validating her suffering, and it is the first, most crucial step. She does not move, but you feel a subtle shift in the oppressive atmosphere. She is listening. Now comes the most delicate and dangerous part of the ritual. You move to her side, and you raise your spiritual hands. In them you hold a comb, a ghostly effigy of an ivory whale comb, a sacred tool for a sacred task. Psychoanalytic interpretations of this myth often focus on the act of combing as a deeply therapeutic and intimate gesture. You are not just cleaning the goddess. You are attempting to heal a primal wound. With a slow, infinitely gentle motion, you touch her hair. It is a shocking mess. Thick, greasy, and matted into great tangled knots, filled with the debris of human misdeeds. You begin to comb, starting at the ends and patiently working your way up. With each pass of the comb, you pull free a piece of the spiritual filth. You pull out a shard of malice, a knot of disrespect, a slimy thread of a broken promise. The work is slow and arduous. Her hair is a physical record of every human failing, and it is miles long. As you work, you murmur to her, soothing words, ancient songs, promises that her people will be more careful, more respectful. You are tending to her as a loving parent would a grieving child. For the first time since her father's betrayal, she is being touched not with violence or neglect, but with gentle, selfless care. She who has no fingers to do this for herself is relying on the kindness of a human, and as you untangle the knots, you feel her begin to relax. The immense, rigid tension in her shoulders begins to soften. A long, shuddering sigh, a sound like the shifting of glaciers, escapes her. With the filth gone, her hair begins to regain its natural, beautiful state, flowing like the clean, dark water around her. And as the last knot is undone, you see the miracle. The spirits of the sea mammals, who had been trapped in the tangled cage of her hair, are now free. You see the ghostly forms of seals, walruses, and whales swim gracefully away from her, released from their prison. They shimmer and fade, their journey back to the world of the living, back to the hunters' waiting kayaks now beginning. Your mission is a success. You have soothed the angry goddess. You have cleaned her hair. You have released the animals. You have saved your people. You offer one final deep bow of gratitude and respect and begin your long, treacherous journey back to the surface, leaving the great lonely goddess of the sea in her clean, quiet hall. Her pain eased for a time. You return to your body with a great, shuddering gasp. The heavy weight of your physical form a shocking burden after the freedom of the spirit world. You are back in the dark, crowded igloo, the smell of sweat and seal oil lamps replacing the cold, clean emptiness of the abyss. The drum in your lap has fallen silent. You are drenched in sweat, your muscles aching, your body as exhausted as if you had been running for a week. But your spirit is calm. You have succeeded. You take a breath, and in a voice still hoarse from your travels, you speak the words the village has been desperate to hear. The animals will return. The mother of the sea is calm. A collective sigh, a sound of 100 taut nerves finally releasing, fills the darkness. The lamps are relit, their warm, gentle glow pushing back the shadows, and your face, gaunt and weary, is seen as the face of a savior. The change is immediate. The next morning, the hunters go out onto a sea that is miraculously transformed. Where there was silence, there is now life. They see the dark, curious heads of seals popping up at the breathing holes, They see the great lumbering forms of walruses sunning themselves on the ice floes. In the distance, they see the misty plume of a whale's breath. The hunt is successful. Kayaks return to the village laden with fresh meat and blubber, and the sounds of joyous work, of skinning, of butchering, of preparing for a feast, replace the grim silence of starvation. The shaman, the Angakuk, was the keeper of this sacred knowledge, the living library of the laws that held the world together. As the village feasts, you retell the story of your journey, reminding them of the price of their carelessness. You speak of Sedna's loneliness, her pain, the filth in her hair. The taboos are reinforced, the cosmic cause and effect made clear to a new generation. They have been given a second chance, and it is a gift from a wounded but temporarily pacified goddess. And so you see the pattern, the great, slow, eternal rhythm of this world. The balance has been restored, but it is a fragile one. This is not a final victory, it is a temporary truce in a permanent state of tension. This is the understanding that defines the relationship between the Inuit and their sea. The sea is not a pantry to be plundered. It is a powerful, sentient, and easily offended being. Environmental historians often debate whether the ecological wisdom in such myths is a conscious conservation ethic or a byproduct of a spiritual worldview. From your perspective, the distinction is meaningless. Respect for the spirit of the sea is the only viable conservation plan. The people will be careful for a time, but memories will fade. A new hunter will grow arrogant. A grieving mother will forget a ritual. A secret will be kept. And slowly, inevitably, the spiritual litter will once again begin to drift down into the dark, tangling in the goddess's hair. Her pain will grow, her anger will simmer, the animals will vanish, and the shaman's perilous journey will have to be made all over again. It's a recurring cycle of messing up, apologizing, and promising to do better. A rhythm that defines the human condition. Down in the silent dark, Sedna sits on her throne. Her hair is clean for now. Her pain is eased for now. But her memory is eternal. She has not forgiven. She has only been appeased. She is the lonely, mutilated mother of all life in the sea, forever bound to the careless, short-lived, warm-blooded creatures who live on the fragile crust of ice above. Her existence a constant, powerful reminder that survival depends not on strength or skill alone, but on a delicate and eternally vigilant balance. And so, our journey to the cold, dark depths comes to a gentle close. The great storm has passed, and the vast, icy sea is calm once more, its surface reflecting the soft, gray light of a polar sky. The shaman has returned to the warmth of the village, the hunters have returned with their life-giving catch, and the goddess for now is at peace in her silent, lonely kingdom. The delicate balance has been restored, and a quiet sense of order settles back over the world, as soft and as gentle as new-fallen snow. Let the image of that vast, quiet, and peaceful landscape fill your mind. Let the memory of the roaring storm fade, replaced by the soft rhythmic sound of a calm tide, or the gentle hum of the fan in your room. There are no more monsters, no more betrayals, only the slow, deep breathing of a world at rest. The great cycle will continue, but not tonight. Tonight, all is calm, all is quiet, and you can feel yourself drifting, letting go of the story, letting go of the day, sinking gently now, not into a cold, dark sea, but into a warm, soft, and peaceful sleep.